Hey, what's going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video, and today I wanted to talk about an interesting topic that's going on that everyone likes to always be intrigued about in the movie cinematic universe. I think I covered this a while back, but it's Marvel Cinematic Universe updated and talking about the state of Marvel Cinematic Universe. And joining me with this, who is also very good with Marvel as well, is going to be the person who's done a lot of my super reviews with you. You'll know him, Richard Cora Kenobi. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, bro. Happy to be here.
Yes. So, like I said, we are talking about the state of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe is an interesting concept because there's a lot of division. Because back in late 90s, early 2000s, so to speak, a lot of the superheroes that Marvel comic books owned were sold off to um, to other studios because Marvel Studios didn't exist back then. So they sold them off, and obviously all the money pretty much went to those studios, with the exception of maybe the merchandise sales. I'm sure that Marvel got a portion of that, but all the theater stuff, all that money, box office would go to regular studios, and then we had eventually Marvel Studios was created, like I believe around 06, 07, or maybe it was 08 ish.
No, I believe it was '06. It was
Was it
created.
06?
Yeah, it was before Spider-Man 3 came out because it was around this time that it was in the early 2000s. Marvel was on the verge of bankruptcy.
Yes.
Some of the other comic book movies, like Spider-Man, X-Men, Blade, like all those movies did make money, which they had, but it was in '06, they were literally on the verge of bankruptcy. So they decided, okay, well, we need to make our own movie and maybe even kickstart a universe, an expanded universe that connects with everything. So hence in 2008 we got Iron Man, and the fun fact about that
Yes,
is
but there was
that
also the
movie.
help with Paramount Pictures. Were doing the distributions for them, with the exception for Hulk because
Yes.
of contract reasons. Um,
Yes, but yeah, so basically in 2008, if everyone seems to forget this, if in 2008, if Iron Man had bombed at the box office and Marvel had wasted all of that money, they would have gone bankrupt. Like there
and
would
also
not be.
we also got to remember, Richard, this was also during the time when Disney did not own Marvel. People
Yes, this
also seem to
was.
forget that Marvel did not Disney did not officially purchase Marvel as a whole until 2000. I think it was like, was it like the day before 2010, or was it day before 2009? I think it was like that. It was, because I
It
remember it was
was
the last day of the year
It was,
and they
yeah, it
announced it.
was around, it was the last day of the year in 2009 because I can prove this because in 2008 to 2009, if you guys remember the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon, that was going to be picked up for season 3. And
Yeah,
they
because that was being
already
done
had.
by Sony. That was being done by Sony.
Yes,
That's what people forget.
yes, correct. Yeah, so they had ideas for that, and they already had season 3 worked out. But by the time they wanted to start production, that's when Marvel had been purchased by Disney. So Marvel has the cartoon and TV rights to Spider-Man, while Sony still kept the overall movie rights. So around that time, Marvel said, okay, well, we need to cancel the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon. We need to cancel all of these things, and we need to start
Do our own thing,
moving.
basically.
Yes, exactly. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
and it
so
also kind of sunk me because I like that Iron Man cartoon too, which that was eventually canceled too. The one that was done by Nicktoons Network, I believe it was.
yeah,
That was another good Iron Man movie, or not movie. I'm sorry, cartoon that they were doing, which was a really good one. That was another one that was
yeah.
affected by this. But yeah, so basically, that was the whole state with Marvel Studios. Also, they were going through bankruptcy, not just that during that time. There was also other times, which is why they sold the movie rights back in the 90s to begin with. This is why they were doing this, was so they could keep their company afloat during the 90s, because that was another time where they almost went
Yes.
bankrupt as well. And
Yes, their
that's why they
comics
did this
were.
to begin with. For people
Yeah, their
that are
comics.
wondering, well, why would they do this? Why would they sell
Yeah.
their movie rights away? This
Yeah,
is why
well,
they
for
were.
those of you, for those of you who just keep up with their movies, they're a comic book publishing company, and in the '90s, it was a horrible time for them because their comics were not doing so good. So it was in the middle '90s where they started making money after selling off their characters, but they also made some additional money off of toy sales, specifically the Spider-Man toy sales from the cartoon at that time.
Yeah, and
So
it's also easy to get merchandise when your movie is on, the big screen, and you can make toys for that.
yeah,
Things too. That helps too.
Yeah,
Um,
so this is how Marvel stayed afloat into the early 2000s.
yes. So then we get to Marvel Studios, and obviously everything was going successful. Disney eventually bought it, and eventually they actually paid Disney actually paid $100 million more to buy out Paramount Pictures contract. I think that was right before the first Avengers movie was coming on, because the first Captain America movie was still being done by Viacom,
Yeah.
or I should say Paramount Pictures. So they needed to get rid of that, so that's why they did that.
hmm
So that's what happened. And so then after that, Disney pretty much controlled the movies for Marvel Studios now, after or as of the first Avengers movie. So because of this, this is where the issue comes into play with 20th Century Fox. 20th Century Fox obviously has a lot of the Marvel superhero continuity. A Watchin' Lots in firm has really screwed a lot of, I guess, some of the, so to speak, movies that Marvel Studios is trying to produce, because they have Fantastic Four, they have Deadpool, and then they also have the X-Men. Now, obviously, two of the three we all know are very successful as of right now.
Yeah.
The third one, though, is not successful because it's the Fantastic Four, and Fantastic Four bombed at the box office, the recent one.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they have that they know Marvel Studio needs are the villains. Fantastic Four has a lot of the villains that you guys want in the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now, and that is Doctor Doom. I believe they have Silver Surfer.
Yeah, they also have they also have
Galactus.
yeah, there you go,
Yeah,
Galactus. They also have
Galactus, yes.
Galactus. They have so many of the villains that you want to see. Like that's the reason why some of these villains aren't making an appearance in the Infinity War movie that's coming out this summer, because that's why it's just Thanos, because that's all they have.
Yes, that's all they have,
So
and that's a big, huge, like, gray area right now. Which is why we get into this whole Disney sale that came out in January, where Disney, well, they didn't really, I shouldn't say buy it. I mean, they had the Fox had to offer it to people to buy it, and Disney obviously was interested. This is one of the main reasons why they're interested. I mean, Fox has other things that Disney can benefit from too, but don't be remote. It's because of the Marvel stuff that they
yeah,
have that they want.
yeah, so
Um,
I mean, it's like SS Ultimate Goku said, like don't be discouraged, because yeah, they could benefit from having some of Fox's movie studios, their networks, like they could make benefits off of those, but the ultimate end game here is that they want the rest of their comic book characters and their comic book villains, because they already have ideas on how
they
they
have
would
ideas.
integrate. Yeah, they have ideas on
Yes.
how they would integrate these characters into the MCU. But the problem and the thing that's holding them back is that they don't own them, and they're trying to get a hold of them.
To get
So
to get a hold of
that's yeah, so that's again, like a lot of people are saying, why isn't Galactus in Infinity War? How come we're never going to see the X-Men or Deadpool or the Fantastic Four make an appearance? It's because, guys, Marvel does not have those rights. That's how this type of business goes. If another studio has the rights to a certain comic book character, and the studio that's trying to get that comic book character, they can't find any compromise, then that comic book character won't even be in whatever they want it to be in. That's the
them.
thing.
Yeah.
So
And that's the thing with 20th Century Fox is that this is the biggest issue because right now Disney has agreed to buy it, but then the deal hasn't been finalized. A lot of people, because there's even people that were commenting in some of my streams, I noticed that just assumed that this deal was done. It's not a done deal. The government has to approve it.
Yes.
Because monopoly issues. And I have a feeling. I mean, I don't know about you and where your stance is on. I have a feeling this isn't going to get approved. I have a feeling that they're not going to approve this because I don't think it has anything to do with Marvel.
No, and I
think it's just that they own too much and they just don't want to give it.
That's it right there. Yes, exactly. Because see, here's something people seem to forget. Most people know this, but there are some people who don't know this. Disney right now, Disney is an empire. They own half of the world right now. They own almost
they own ESPN, for God's sakes.
Yes, exactly. I mean, anything you can imagine, Disney has already gotten their hands on. So with them having Fox, the government, and this deal, it feels like, okay, that's too much for them. So as Ultimate Goku said, this deal hasn't been finalized yet. It's still in the works. And a deal like of this magnitude, this is going to take...
For example, the AT&T deal, because they already have DirecTV, they want to buy Time Warner, cable or whatever, or Spectrum as it's called now. They want to buy them, right?
Yes.
And that deal was agreed to like last year. It was actually back in, I think, was it late 2016?
Yes, it was late 2016, early 2017.
It still has not been approved. They're still fighting this. Fighting this.
Yes.
So if you think something like that, hasn't been approved yet, and that deal hasn't been approved, I mean, obviously this is going to be probably longer than that deal. And
this could take 2 to 3 years to finalize if
it gets approved.
Yes, if it gets approved. Because, see, typically how this works is that when you make some kind of purchase like this, the government has to finalize it, which that can take 7 to 9 months. But if it's something big like this, that could take probably a whole year or 2 years to finalize.
And who's to say, like 3 years from now, I mean, if it takes that long, like you're saying, I mean, this might even get denied in 3 years, and then it'll be even more chaotic.
Yes, exactly. And I know a lot of people want this to go through, but you have to understand. I mean, you have to put yourself in other people's perspective. Like the how this works government-wise is that Disney holds the monopoly of things on this planet. They have so many studios, so many characters, and they have so many networks. It's a fucking mess. Like, they have a crap load of things at their disposal, and if you think adding Fox to that slate isn't a bad idea, because see, I'm sure people say, well, what's the big deal? I mean, Fox needs this, and Disney seems like the perfect fit, so why shouldn't the government let them have it? Well, that's the thing. If the government isn't realistically fighting for them not to have it, then there's something wrong there. Like, the government is not just going to say, okay, we'll let you have Fox, like, this is a done deal. Like, it takes days. Like, let's say if this deal did get finally approved and it only took a couple of months, realistically there's something wrong with that picture. Like, that should not have been a done deal.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. It's like with 20th Century Fox, I mean, you got to look at this also through the movie perspective too, because there aren't that many big movie studios out there. There's Disney, there's Fox, there's Sony, there's Paramount Pictures, Universal. Did I miss one? Warner Brothers. That's six.
Yeah. Like, there's all of these major studios
that
want to.
So that's 6 studios left, right? That's 6 studios I just counted. Okay, those are the 6 ones you think of right now. Okay, if we get rid of one, and like if Fox merges with Disney, okay, that means there's only 5 left. So in terms of the competition perspective, that's not good. Okay, and I use this comparison too. I mean, look at what happened to the world of professional wrestling. When WWE bought WCW, what happened? WCW is currently PG right now. They are not nearly as good as they were back in the day. And it's mainly due to the contribution of the fact that there was no more competition. They had no more competition, so why do they need to try anymore? And that's the thing too. Like, obviously Marvel's going to still have Warner Brothers to fight, but you have a Marvel Fox, as I call them, and then you have obviously DC. That's three competitions right there that have to fight each other, so they always have to, keep going strong, to think outside the box to keep the motivation going. If there isn't competition, the motivation isn't there anymore, and then they can just do what they want. This is why DC has to keep fighting, because they know that Warner Brothers, or not Warner Brothers, sorry,
No, it's okay.
Marvel is fighting. So that's why they had to create a DC cinematic universe. They had no intention of creating a cinematic universe,
No,
but
they
they
didn't.
realized now they have to, because Marvel is doing one. And so
Yes.
that led to, DC having to finally create a Justice League cinematic movie. And also, which I'm very happy that they were able to get this before Marvel Studios got it, that was to create the first woman superhero on the big screen, which they got before Marvel did, which I was really happy for them that they could get something out there before Marvel did.
Yeah.
But that all goes back to Marvel having to push DC to doing something to help them create.
Yeah, exactly. SS is right. If there's no competition, then there's no motivation. See, that's the thing. If DC hadn't been doing good in the early 2000s with their movies along with Marvel, then Marvel would not have the motivation right now to be where they are today. Same with DC. Like, these two need each other. This is a never-ending battle, pretty much. One motivates the other to do something that the other either hasn't done or has done. See, that's how this goes. And I know a lot of people are going to say right now, but SS Ultimate Goku and Richard Core Kenobi, like, DC's cinematic universe is now dead. It's gone. And yes, that's true, but it still doesn't change the fact that Marvel motivated DC to do it.
Wait, yeah, DC isn't dead. DC's universe isn't dead.
Well, no, specific. They're done. Because I don't know if you heard this, but they named a new. They pretty much got rid of the chief operating officer, if I'm correct, and they hired a new one. So when that happened, when there was a little shakeup inside Warner Brothers, they decided, okay, we're done with the whole cinematic universe. Their cinematic universe is now done for. They've admitted that they can't do what Marvel has done, because Marvel makes this look so easy, and DC tried their hand at it.
Aren't they still making the cinematic movies right now?
No, they're not. Aquaman will be the last one. Aquaman will be the last one that takes place in that cinematic universe, and starting from next year to, I guess, 2020 or 2021, there will be a new slate of DC movies that are not connected with one another. They're going to go back.
I heard they were doing Justice League too. That's what I heard.
Well, unfortunately, no, because, see, that's the thing. If Justice League had made money at the box office, like, if it had made, say, over $700 to $800 million, then yeah, there undoubtedly would be a Justice League, and they would continue their universe.
Well, I heard it made a good money, so I didn't. That's news to me.
Well, unfortunately, it did make money. Like, but okay, let me put it to you like this: because Warner Brothers spent more money on Justice League than they spent on any other DC EU film, because they had to. Because, see, here's the thing. In the beginning, when Zack Snyder was shooting the film, they gave him a good estimated budget of over $200 million. So, plus marketing, you're looking at what? A $400 million budget that movie has to do. But then, after Zack Snyder left, due to the tragic loss of his daughter, and conveniently, Warner Brothers using that excuse to get him out, because I know a lot of people don't know this, but it was recently confirmed Warner Brothers was actually going to fire Zack Snyder before his daughter lost her life. They were literally about to kick him out the door, and Joss Whedon was brought in by request of Zack Snyder to finish up Justice League. Like, that's the whole reason why there were tons and tons of reshoots. And ever since then, half of what Zack Snyder did was kept in the final product, while most of it was Josh Whedon's own thing. So they ended up spending tons more money for the reshoots and for the visual effects and all that. So we're probably looking at over $600 to $700 million that the movie had to make back, and it barely struggled to make it back. So now, because of that,
well, yeah, according to what I'm looking at right now, it seems like as of right now, the Aquaman is coming out.
Yeah,
Shazam is coming out. Wonder Woman 2, Cyborg, and Green Lantern is coming out, but it doesn't say anything about Justice League 2. So
no, like they've
that's what it's looking like right now.
Yeah, and they also made another announcement a couple days ago that some of their other films, like a solo Deadshot movie, that's going to be canceled. The Nightwing movie is going to be put on the back burner. It's not removed from the slate. It's still going, but it's just going to be on the back burner.
So they're not doing a Batman film either, though.
No, they're still. That's going to take time. The director of that, Matt Reeves, has stated that basically, the Batman solo movie, which is going to be turned into a trilogy, that is going to take a while because he has an idea for the script and he's still writing the script. So we won't see this movie come out until possibly 2020, maybe 2021. So all of these movies that are planned, they're going to take time. So that's
but you're saying like that because you're saying Aquaman's going to be in the universe, is going to be in the cinematic universe, but I imagine Wonder Woman 2 has to be in the cinematic universe.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like Wonder Woman 2, because some of these movies will not be tied to the cinematic universe.
It won't because it has to. I would think it would have to because Wonder Woman 1 was.
Yeah, but Wonder Woman 1 technically was its own thing. Even though it was tied to that, it was still its own thing because it took place. It was its own thing,
but it mentioned the stuff that happened with Batman v Superman and all that stuff that happened beforehand. So it had to have been connected. But I mean, it's very interesting to see what they plan on doing now with the, I personally think they should do a Teen Titans movie, like based on the actual regular cartoon. But I mean, with the Cyborg movie, they're probably not going to do that.
That goes in the whole Titans thing. That goes into their TV shows because they are making a live action Titans show that is coming out in summertime, I believe. So but no, back to the whole cinematic universe.
Let's get back to the cinematic universe because we're kind of
No, it's okay. So basically the whole point here is that Marvel motivated DC to try their hand at it. And yes, DC's cinematic universe didn't do wonderfully, but the fact is they still tried and they were still motivated to try and be different. See, that's what Marvel has done for arguably everyone because every studio now wants their own cinematic universe. They want to have it be successful like Marvel's has been going.
And that's the thing with Marvel Fox, too. I like to call them Marvel Fox. They have, in a way, their own cinematic universe, too. And so it still competes competition as well, with Marvel Studios and even, to a certain extent, DC, too, because they're doing their own thing with those superheroes as well. So that's it's really a three-way competition right now with them. So that's what also helps the motivation as well, even more for all these studios that are doing them. With the recent, obviously, partnership with Sony, who has the Spider-Man rights. They obviously are, kind of collaborating with Marvel Studios for Spider-Man. They also are going to be doing their own film coming up soon, which is a movie that I'm very interested in seeing, and that is the Venom movie. I've been waiting for a long time for Venom to get on the big screen, and it's from what I've seen, it looks good. I'm hoping that it's good as what I've heard. The rumors, at least, are saying right now that it's going to be what it is, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But the thing with that is because Spider-Man and them, they're all kind of connected because Sony's still kind of downgraded since the whole Korea movie happened. They lost a lot of money from that, and the North Korea movie. Because of that is I think we have to safe to say that's the main reason why they collaborated with Marvel Studios to begin with, but also based on the way their Amazing Spider-Man 3 was going to be, I'm sure that had a big part in it too, because I think that plot was kind of shitty from what
Yeah.
I.
Well,
So what do you
see,
think
that's
about that?
well, no, I mean, the whole Venom thing, basically my point is this, is that, okay, they're trying so hard to make Venom profitable, and they're trying to just have him be their Spider-Man, but the problem with that is that they alienate people who actually know Venom best when he works with Spider-Man or when he's with Spider-Man, because see, it's a whole yin and yang situation. So, I mean, I I can understand if the Venom movie is a decent hit, but it's never gonna be what comic book fans want it to be, because that's the thing. It's not with Spider-Man. Spider-Man
Well,
can't be.
there's rumors that Spider-Man is going to show up.
Yeah,
We'll
but
have to
see,
wait and see on that, but
that still proves the point that, okay, it's mostly about Venom. Spider-Man has little to no involvement in it.
yeah, it depends really also on how they set it up in the
Yeah.
beginning. They're gonna talk about like how he got these powers or whatever, to show some of the stuff that happened with him and Spider-Man. If they're gonna show
Yeah.
something like that, and then kind of get into what he is. Obviously they're going in a good guy. Well, not I shouldn't say good guy, anti-hero approach Venom for probably the majority of this movie, because I don't think a villain protagonist would make sense, honestly.
Yeah.
Kind of like what Fox is doing with Deadpool. And if Spider-Man does show up, it could be similar to the way the video game was in Sega Genesis. If the rumors are true that the villain is Carnage. I don't know what your thoughts on Carnage is, on what you think that could be, but
I'm not a fan of them using Carnage this early, because that's Venom's ultimate villain. And if this does make money, and they they do make a sequel, who are they going to have be the big bad in the sequel? Because that's the thing. Venom and Carnage are the two ultimate villains. So the fact that they're throwing Carnage out this early, it shows they're rushing this. They're wanting this to be a successful movie, because Sony right now has they're determined to stay around, because they are. I don't know what a lot of people have heard, but Sony is not doing good financially right now. Like, in a few years,
it's mainly contributed to the thing that I talked about earlier, which was the North Korea whole movie. But,
yeah.
So
Yeah, like, they have lost a lot of money, and they're trying to gain a lot of money. So they need some of their movies that are coming out this year, they need those to be a hit. One movie can't just be a hit alone. They need all of them to. So if all of their, like, let's say this. Let's say if the Venom movie and the Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse animated film, like, let's say those two are the only two. I mean, we'll put Hotel Transylvania 3 in there too, because I know that has a fan base. But let's say those are the only three movies that make money, and some of them can make from 80 to $200 million. So put all that combined, those three movies have made over $500 to $700 million. Now that's good, but that's not what they need. They need all of their films that are coming out this year. Now, their Jumanji film made a crap load of money.
yeah,
So
I'm actually surprised by that. By the way, I didn't.
Same here. So
I really think they should be thanking The Rock, because I think that's the only way that movie would have.
Yeah. So see, that's the thing.
You can't replace the original.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's the thing. If all of their movies right now do not make money by the end of this year, and only 2 to 3 of them do, then that pretty much guarantees that Sony is not only going to be up for sale themselves, but they're going to lose the rights to certain characters. Like Spider-Man can revert back to Marvel if they fully go under.
Well, yeah, I would assume that because they're under then by that point. But also, I mean, the thing too is because there's rumors that that the way they're setting this movie up, this Venom movie up, is where it will show elements. I mean, especially if it does have Spider-Man in there, Peter Parker Spider-Man from the MCU, that this is possibility for them to set something up where we'll do a potential future film crossover with the MCU Spider-Man as well as the MCU characters in a crossover, since they're on good terms with the Spider-Man whole cinematic rights. If assuming the film does good, I mean, what do you think of something where that could work, where they would do that?
If let's say hypothetically their Venom movie does good, like let's say it makes over $300 million worldwide, it's about 600 million. So it's a hit. It's profitable. So if that were to happen, and then 2 months later, the animated Spider-Man film is a hit, that does amazing, even slightly better than Venom. I could see them wanting to experiment more with all Spider-Man's characters, but I could see the possibility of them crossing over. It's a very, very small chance because Sony is so guaranteed right now to have their own thing. I mean, because this is still Sony. Don't what everyone thinks right now. This is still Sony we're talking about. This company is determined to have something that Marvel has, but it's their own. So, and I explained this to SS Ultimate Goku a while back. If all of their movies that are based off of Spider-Man's villains and heroes without Spider-Man in them, if those do amazingly and swimmingly, then what they could do, if it's enough to save them, they could take all of that and they can choose not to have those characters appear in the MCU. They'll still agree to have Spider-Man, but it's just Peter Parker. See, that's the thing. They can have access to all of the other Spider-Man and not give it to Marvel. They would only let Marvel have them if they could cut them a deal and if they could guarantee them the same thing they're guaranteeing them with Peter Parker's Spider-Man right now. That's the main...
which is like the box office money cut for the solo films.
Exactly. And I know a lot of people say that Sony did finally share Spider-Man because they saw the opportunities it could bring them. No, don't let that fool you. They actually only did that because they were backed up into a corner. They had to do that.
And they were losing money and they were kind of desperate.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're a company like Sony, and you're desperate like that, you gotta do it because you need to make money, at that point. So that's really the only reason why they did it. It wasn't because of the goodness of the heart for the fans. Don't be fooled by that. So yeah, I mean, it was just a thing where they needed to make money and they were basically backed into a corner and they were like, we need to do something. Yeah. So I mean, that's why they made the deal when they did. And that deal only runs until 2020, by the way, for them sharing the rights with Spider-Man. So they could just decide then to depart and try to do it on their own again if they wanted to. And that's another thing too. And like I said, with the whole thing with Fox, I don't think we mentioned this, but with the whole finalization of the deal is while that was going on, when they were trying to, buy it or whatever, Universal stepped in and Comcast stepped in and they outbidded Disney as of recently, a couple weeks ago. I believe Universal did, they offered $6.5 billion or $60.5 billion. This is after the deal was, of course, agreed to. But now people are coming in and being like, okay, well, we now want to outbid Disney because I think some of these companies are starting to realize that that Disney might not get it. And so they're like, well, maybe we can do it because you have to know the reason why Hulk doesn't have a solo movie since 2008, I think it was
Yeah.
is because Universal decided, or not Universal. Universal had the character rights back in 2003 because they made a Hulk film, but it failed. It bombed, and so they gave the character rights back to Marvel in 2005. However, they kept the whole distribution rights. I don't know how
Hmm.
that exactly works or how that whole came away, but they somehow held on to the distribution rights, which is also what led to Marvel when
Hmm.
they decided to make a Hulk film. Paramount Pictures couldn't touch it because they were the ones that were doing the distributions at the time for Marvel films. They couldn't
Hmm.
touch it. They couldn't touch
Yeah.
it, so they actually had to make a deal with Universal to do the distribution for that Hulk film, which did pretty good, I guess, for the box office. But because of that, once a year and a half later came around and Disney bought Marvel, they obviously didn't make a solo Hulk sequel since because
No.
now
Yeah.
you have to work with now Disney would have to work with Universal just for a Hulk film. And
Yeah.
even though
Which
they were able
that
to pay off,
has not been
even
going
though they were
good.
able to pay, even though they were able to pay off Viacom, $100 million to get out of all the Marvel deals or whatever, they couldn't for Universal because that they actually own the distribution rights to Hulk solo films. That's why you haven't seen a Hulk sequel since '08, and this is why you've only seen Hulk make appearances in the Avengers because they don't obviously own the rights to the character or the title name Avengers. But anything where Hulk appears on the title name, they can't use Hulk.
No.
So yeah, that's the thing. Think
Yeah.
about what do you think about that? Like with that whole thing with now Universal and Comcast,
I
you have the
Yeah, I
Hulk
mean, what you said
distribution.
is very true. I mean, like, and I know a lot of people. Look, I more than anybody, or no, both of us on here would love to see another Hulk film. We would love to see Hulk get his own solo film and have it do good. But again, that's the problem right there. Is that Universal will refuse to release those distribution rights unless they get something out of it. So if Universal wants to make a Hulk film, they can, but that will require them to have this whole long, drawn out debate with Marvel. And it's very hard, and I know a lot of people assume compromising between businesses is easier than done. It's really not. Like, it is not easy to compromise between businesses like these big companies. Because if you're a small independent company, I'm sure it's easy. Like, it's probably easier to negotiate a deal and have it be a done thing. But with Marvel, Universal, Sony, Fox, these four companies all getting along together is preposterous. Like, it
Yeah.
really is. This is the reason that you are not seeing all of the Marvel heroes together on the big screen. It's all because of these individual companies. So while I can see why people want a Hulk film, I can see there's something there for it. Ultimately, guys, I'm sorry, you're only going to see Hulk in the Avengers movies. You're only going to see Hulk crossover with other characters because that's a guaranteed done thing. And I know a lot of people want to know, well, if Hulk can't have his own solo film and he can only be in the Avengers movie, how come he gets to cross over with other characters' movies? Because it's based on that character alone. That character can have a crossover with the Hulk because it's their movie. It's not Hulk's movie, it's their movie. They can
And
even
Marvel Studios owns the character rights to Hulk, which is why
exactly,
they
yeah.
have in there.
Yeah.
That's why it's weird with the Hulk because the Hulk is the one Marvel character in this whole discussion where Marvel Studios doesn't own the character rights and the distribution; they only own the character rights, which is why he
Mhm.
crossover films like the Avengers films where he can't be in a film by himself that's titled Hulk or whatever you want to title it.
Mhm.
Because they don't have the distribution rights. The Universal does.
I agree. It is. It's ultimately, guys, I hope throughout this whole video you come to see that if you think this stuff between Fox and Marvel and all these other companies are easy, they're really not. Like, this shit is very hard. And I'll tell you this right now, like, if Sony, like, let's say this, like, if the Fox and Marvel deal, Disney deal does go through, that's the ultimate thing right there. Disney at this point has access to everything you can imagine. The only thing they don't have, yes, is Time Warner, but there's no point to that because Disney doesn't need. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, what's stopping Disney from buying other companies like Time Warner or even purchasing smaller companies like, say, Rooster Teeth or Funimation or just any of these companies?
Well, Funimation's actually owned by Sony Pictures now.
Yeah, yep. Which is not going good for them, but yeah,
$150 million.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It's like I said, what's stopping Disney from owning all these companies is the government. Because again, it's like SS Ultimate Goku said, the government is not going to let Disney own everything in this entire world. There have to be other companies that can have.
Yeah, because if they did that, that's capitalism. That would be a monopoly, and that's what our government doesn't want. That was the whole thing of the United States being created. We don't want that to happen.
Exactly. No, yeah, it's a fair point because, and at this point, while Fox has admitted they want Disney to buy them. They need Disney to buy them because Disney can give them a huge profit. And Disney can arguably keep them afloat. If Fox is purchased by Disney, Fox will never have to worry about going bankrupt or losing money again. They'll literally be covered. But if Fox is owned by another company, like let's say if Universal or Comcast gets a hold of them, yeah, it'll be good, but you still see the problem there. If those two companies get a hold of them, it's not Disney. Disney can guarantee they'll never leave. Disney can guarantee they will have a way out.
Well, yeah, there's that. And then also we got to look in the side of it, too, for Universal and even Comcast, Universal Studios. If they buy them, they have now a hold of the Fox characters, which will be really interesting to see what they would do with it. They just keep doing what Fox is doing with the current superhero movies that they're doing with them, or do they try to completely reboot and do something different? I can't see them doing that with Deadpool. Maybe X-Men, because X-Men has been going on for a long time now, but X-Men still makes a lot of money, so it would be probably risky to reboot at this point. Fantastic Four probably the only one, obviously, because Fantastic Four really hasn't had a good movie. I mean, the first two that they made, granted, the Fantastic Four, the first two ones were decent, but they weren't great, movies. But obviously the reboot was absolute dog shit, and so because of that, Fantastic Four right now has no value whatsoever. So bad that Marvel Comic Books actually canceled its own assembly line for the franchise, for the comic book franchise. So, I mean, that would probably be the only one that, like, any of these newer studios that would buy Fox would probably have to fix, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of where everything is right now with Marvel, because Marvel, obviously it's all, it's all division right now and friction with, the way the superheroes are structured. But you got to remember, like I said, if some of this stuff hadn't happened in the beginning, I mean, we wouldn't even be here to begin with, because Marvel wouldn't exist had they not given these characters up for movies.
I know, and I know people. Yeah, and I know people wish they hadn't back then, but it's just like Ultimate SS Goku said. If they hadn't, they wouldn't be here. If they hadn't, there wouldn't be a cinematic universe, and there wouldn't be motivation for other companies to try it out.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. I mean, we would have had another for DC. We would have had another Batman and Robin movie. I mean.
Yeah, exactly. And I know a lot of people, and I want to address this, because I know a lot of people right now are getting sick of superhero films and saying superhero films are going to die out soon. And, well, see, one, no, they're not, because superhero films are the most profitable genre right now to the modern day. In the 90s, yes, they were kind of dying, but in the early 2000s to now, they have continued to gain more profit. See, that's the thing. And right now, what is Marvel battling, trying to get a hold for? What are they trying to get out of Fox? They're trying to get more of their catalogs so they can have more superheroes. So if you want to see a Fantastic Four movie, or if you want to see an X-Men movie or a Deadpool movie from the MCU, then you're gonna have to wait. That's all it is. But
it's that, like I said, you're gonna have to wait. And the thing too is, it's like thinking about it too, and there's also a bad side to this too, because let's say they did get Fox, okay? Well, that means you're gonna have less movies too, because usually the average is a year, right? In a calendar year, there's 2 superhero movies produced by Disney a year, right? Well, it's the same for Fox, and it's the same for DC. There's usually 2 a year. If Fox doesn't exist, if Fox Marvel doesn't exist anymore, there's going to be less superhero movies. There's not going to be more, and also that means the less cost in terms of the way Marvel Studios produces their films. I mean, your superhero that you want to see might have to wait longer to get a film without Fox, because it's like, well, we're going to do this film now. We were going to do this movie, superheroes like Ant-Man, I'm not really a fan of that superhero, but like film like Ant-Man, right? Okay. Yeah. He's not going to be like the interest if they get like someone like X-Men or Deadpool or someone like that. They're going to be more into the people that are more popular and stuff like that too. So if you're someone that's a fan of like an Ant-Man type character, he might be on the back burner, and stuff like that too. That's another thing you got to look at too.
I agree. I definitely agree. And
What's up?
Sorry, everyone. My headphones came undone. Anyway, what I was trying to say is that, okay, everyone should just be happy that even though we're not getting the superhero films you want, we're still getting superhero films regardless. Like, they're not going away anytime soon. And again, as SS Ultimate Goku and I have been trying to prove, is that, okay, these films on their own can do so much more than you give them credit for. Because again, who would have thought that Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, and Black Panther would make this amount of money? And these are characters that only hardcore comic book fans know about. Because you got to remember, in the early 2000s, the only comic book characters people knew about were Spider-Man and the X-Men. Nobody knew who Iron Man was. Nobody knew who Ant-Man.
I knew who Iron Man was. I'm sure people knew about Captain America too, because I knew about him.
Yeah. So you see, but not everyone knew. But now today, characters like Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, and Black Panther, and Captain Marvel, those are now household names, and future Marvel characters can be household names. So that's the way I look at it. And as I said, I would love for Disney to buy Fox, but ultimately, realistically, it may not happen. Like, as much as I know a lot of people want it, you have to understand, it's like SS Ultimate Goku said, if they own too much, it's straight up capitalism, and that's not what we want. That's not what the government wants. At this point, Disney has a lot under their belt. They have Marvel, they have Pixar, they have Star Wars. They have so many. They have news networks like ESPN. They have They have all of these other things under their belt. So if they don't get Fox, I don't want people to be upset or even say that Disney doesn't get anything, because again, as we've just shown, Disney has a lot. Like, they literally...
you can just literally look up the entire list. It's online. They'll have, a full list, of all the stuff that they own. It's a lot.
Yeah, and every year, a Disney movie comes out. Because every year, it's going to be a Pixar movie, it's going to be a Marvel movie, and a Star Wars movie.
It's not just... they don't just make Marvel movies. They make other stuff, too.
Yeah, and last year they made so much money on these things alone. So as I said, I can understand where people are coming from. They want this to succeed, but you just have to look at it this way. If the government, if it's taking too long right now for the government to finalize this, that should prepare you that Disney may not get it, and Fox may have to suffer for that. Like Fox is probably going to have to deal with being brought out by some other company that could.
Well, they don't lose any of the money that they agreed to give to Disney because they don't give that money until the deal is finalized. So,
Yeah,
or Disney doesn't give that money away to Fox until the deal is officially finalized. But they'll have to. I mean, if it doesn't get approved, then they have to go to someone else. But I mean, according to Universal, they are already like willing to pay more now.
yeah,
But
like
that's
because
only after.
Universal.
That's only
Yeah,
after.
yeah, because
The fact.
Universal has now come up and said they're bidding more money. So Universal could reasonably sneak in and take Fox, and the deal would be done a lot quicker. It would still take a couple of months if it were to happen, but it would be a guarantee that I could see Universal or Comcast, but mostly I could see Universal owning Fox instead of Disney owning Fox because
Yeah, you think that could happen if Disney? Because I mean, I'm assuming Fox, assuming that Disney doesn't get Fox, I'm assuming that Fox is going to still try to sell. I don't think they're just going to like, okay, well now we're going to just keep our company going afloat or whatever. I'm
no,
sure
yeah,
they're going to
like
still
they,
try to
yeah,
give it to someone else.
I believe they will. Like, I mean, Universal is the best second option because if Universal look at where Universal's at right now, they're not on Disney's levels, but they're pretty damn good. They have a lot of
They're the only company besides Disney right now that actually has a really good theme park. They have Universal Studios right on Florida, right, in competition with Disney World. So
Yeah.
if there was anyone to buy them that possibly could get them, where the government would say, you know what, yes, we'll give it to them because they don't nearly have as much as Disney has, and obviously Fox is going to continue trying to sell it. So
Yeah.
they'll be like, we'll give it to them. We'll give it to them because they have a theme park and stuff like it, and we'll make even more competition for Disney then.
Yeah, so ultimately, now I know a lot of people are going to ask, well, what would happen if Universal brought Disney? Here's ultimately what would happen. As Ultimate Goku said, that it would ultimately be a done deal. It would take a couple of months, but the government would say, okay, we're going to give you it because you don't have as much as Disney, and you reasonably could do something with this, and they get it. Like, okay, the first announcement is that, okay, here's what's going to happen. Because I know a lot of people are going to want to know what is going to happen with Deadpool, the X-Men, and Fantastic Four. So here's what's going to happen. They'll allow Deadpool to keep going. They'll allow that to be rated R because, again, you can't change something that's already making money because that would result in so much legal battle and lawsuits if they did that. Like if Universal were to say, okay, well, we want Deadpool to be PG-13. We want to market him to kids. Fox would argue with them and say, no, we can't do that because the rated R, Deadpool 2 years ago showed us that a rated R comic book superhero film can work if under the right circumstances.
Well,
and now
not only that, but Deadpool 2 is about to come out this year, right? And that movie's probably going to do a lot too, and that's going to even create more, of the argument because that movie isn't going to stop regardless of what happens with this deal.
No, exactly, yeah. So that movie's still going to keep going. So Universal will not change anything if they get Deadpool and the X-Men. They'll let them do what they have to do, but I assume they would be willing to share. Because here's the thing. I know a lot of people want to see these characters in the MCU. Well, again, Universal would have to split a contract between them and Universal. Universal would get the money. They would be the ones who they would let Marvel work on the films, but they would have to let Universal distribute them, and they would have to let them make the money off of it. That's how this.
Do you think that could realistically work with Fantastic Four though, where they would actually want to make a deal with Marvel on that?
Well, it depends, really, because if Marvel gets the Fantastic Four, here's what would happen. You would see Fantastic Four, Deadpool, and the X-Men in tons of more comic book sales. Like, they would push out so many comic books between these characters, and they would also create a line of merchandise. They would push all of these characters out into the spotlight so they could get them ready for their ultimate film debuts.
Well, yeah, that's the problem though, because if Universal gets it, I would imagine. I mean, Fantastic Four hasn't proven to making any money, but
no, exactly, and the
villains though might.
Yeah, no, the villains have a huge opportunity, like, because, and I know a lot of people want to know, like, because if you want to know how dead the Fantastic Four is, they're not only dead in the movie universe. They've had 3 movies in the past. None of them have been box office successes. And also, too, their merchandise is almost non-existent. And lastly, the Fantastic Four have not even been in the comics. They
canceled them.
Yeah, exactly. So the Fantastic Four, in Fox's hands, it's a dead franchise. It's literally not profitable for them at all, but they still have them. So if they were to give it to Marvel, to Disney, if Disney were to buy them, if Marvel were to have access to them, they would be able to jumpstart them. Same way they did with Spider-Man. It would be a done deal. But if Universal has them, they would pretty much, like, I don't think Universal would try to make another Fantastic Four movie because they see that is not necessary, and they should know in the past the Fantastic Four has been shown to not be profitable in any part of anything, in terms of comics, in terms of movies, and just in terms of action figures. So if the Fantastic Four is not profitable in any of those areas, I think, don't take my word for this. This is just a hypothetical.
Yeah, this is all hypothetical, by the way, because this deal hasn't even been done yet on who's getting.
No, yeah. So here's what would happen: Universal would say, "Okay, we will keep Deadpool and X-Men, and if you want to have them, you have to draw up a contract. You need to guarantee we'll let you make the movies, but you have to let us distribute them, and you have to let us make the profits off of them." And they would have to agree to that. But if they didn't, then that wouldn't happen. But with Fantastic Four, that's interesting. I think.
Yeah, because that's the thing too. Because hypothetically, if Universal got it, if Universal had gets the Fantastic Four right, I mean, they probably won't make. I think we both agree they probably won't make a Fantastic Four movie, but they could use the villains though in films with X-Men and Deadpool or something like that, because technically they own the films. I mean, they could do like crossover thing, like Marvel thing with Avengers.
Yes,
so
but
that's something I can see happening too.
Yeah, and here's another thing: they could ultimately sell the Fantastic Four back to Marvel. They could say, "Okay, you can have the Fantastic Four. You can do whatever you want with them because they are not profitable to us.
But we'll keep the films, right?"
Yeah, exactly. So I'm pretty sure they would say, okay, if you want the Fantastic Four back, okay, you can have them back in terms of the comics and in the action figure lineup. But if you want to make films with them, that's where you need to come to us so we can agree on something. And yeah, you're right. The villains can have their own, because that's arguably what would happen if Universal got them. Universal would say, okay, the Fantastic Four themselves, let's not do anything with them. The villains, we can do something with them because people show there's clearly interest. So I think that could happen. Now, ultimately, at the end of the day, I know a lot of people want to know, how would this make Universal look if they had Deadpool, X-Men, and the Fantastic Four? How this would make them look, it would just make them look better in terms of comparison because they now have something to work off of. Because you guys got to remember, last year or 2 years, it was around last year that they tried to start their own cinematic universe, and it didn't go well. Like, it literally was a dead thing. But now they could get somewhere if they had access to Deadpool and the X-Men, because those are extremely profitable. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how they would, I mean, I don't know how they would do a successful Avengers type crossover, but I'm sure they could come up with something
no,
on
yeah,
why they
like
would
I mean,
be able to do something
you
like
could
that.
reasonably here they could reasonably reboot the X-Men and they could keep Deadpool the way he is until they decide to reboot him. But they could have X-Men and Deadpool crossover.
Yeah, they
It
can just
would
have them cross over. I mean, why not? I mean, Deadpool can just like use the fourth wall, obviously, to cross over anyway. So I mean, like, wouldn't be that hard to justify Deadpool.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, exactly. And that's probably what would happen. But ultimately, at the end of the day, um, I know a lot of people, and again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record. We know how much you want that deal to go through. We know how much you want these characters to appear in the MCU. We know Marvel would do good with them, but it's never that easy. Things like this are never that easy, guys. And I honestly think Universal has a better chance of getting access to Fox than Disney does, because it's like we said, Universal doesn't have that much. They have successful franchises, but they don't own everything like Disney does. So to Fox, to the government, Universal owning Fox, that would honestly be a good thing. Like that
Would be
wouldn't
a
be
good
that
thing.
bad.
For a government perspective, yes, it would be a good thing because then also if Universal got Fox, they would probably be right where Warner Brothers is in terms of their establishment.
Yeah,
They are, because
yeah. So
when you think of the two biggest companies in the United States, you probably think of Warner Brothers and then you think of Disney because Disney's obviously number one. And Warner Brothers would probably be like a high number two. Then if you get Universal owning Fox, they could be right up there with Warner Brothers.
they
Be right
could,
up
yeah, and they
high
now, if Universal did get Fox, they would not be able to compete with Disney. There's no guarantee they would. So they wouldn't be able to do what Disney's doing. But they could, what SS Ultimate Goku just said, they could do what DC is doing, what Warner Brothers is doing. So they could actually compete with Warner Brothers rather than Disney
for that
because,
number two spot.
yeah, so it's pretty much a battle of who will get that number two spot. So yeah, because again, nobody is ever going to take Disney down. Nobody's ever going to own as much as they own.
No. This is another hypothetical. Could you see a scenario where if Universal got got the Marvel or the Fox Marvel characters, could you see a scenario where they would try to trade with Disney? Because remember, there was that one time where Fox actually or Disney had offered to Fox that they would trade like two of their, I think, Silver Surfer and Galactus
Yes.
For Daredevil,
Yeah.
and they didn't do it or whatever.
Yeah, I do, and they eventually. Yeah, it was Quicksilver, and it was no, it was actually Ego the Living Planet. So yeah, they did make trades. So
They
yeah,
tried to make a trade, but they tried to make a trade, but it didn't they didn't
Yeah.
do it.
With
Go for
this
it.
one, I could see it going well. Like, but specifically, they wouldn't even have to trade them anything for the Fantastic Four because, as I said, they would give them the Fantastic Four because
They would
they
give
have
them
no
the heroes, but they wouldn't give them the villains because they'd be
Yeah.
like, well, we want to use the villains for our, superhero
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah, exactly. So they wouldn't. So they have no use for the heroes themselves. So they would give that to Disney right away. It wouldn't even have to be a contract at that point. But with Deadpool and X-Men, that's something interesting because, as I said, it's ultimately, it's undoubtedly at the end of the day, it's Deadpool and the X-Men Disney want. So if Universal has access to them and they get profits off of their films, the only way I could see them successfully trading is if they can come to a compromise. But ultimately, reasonably, they would just have to drop a contract to share these characters. And
The characters are saying them, maybe they'd be like, well, we want Hulk then. If we give you this character, we want the Hulk, his character rights. It could be something like that too. It doesn't have to exactly. I mean, it all depends on what they want to do. But like I said, I just kind of brought this up because this was something that Disney had offered one time for Fox. Obviously, it was denied; they didn't want to do it. But I mean, it could be different when it comes to Universal. So this is not totally unheard of that they could possibly, try to trade a character for another character.
yeah, I agree. And I think that in the long run, it's a better idea for Universal to get Fox, and I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with that statement, but again, you have to look at it from the government's perspective, and you have to look at it from a completely different and reasonable perspective. Disney has too much, and if they had more, it would be straight up capitalism, and that's not what we want. But if but if Universal gets those rights, if Universal gets Fox, they're better off for it. I think they could profit off of it more than Disney can, but Disney would ultimately want those profits. So it's kind of a game of, okay, we want this, you have this, so let's try and make a deal. That's how I think it would realistically go if Universal got Fox. Because now if Comcast got Fox, I don't know how that's
a whole different
that's an entire so reasonably the only other two companies that can get Fox is Universal and Comcast because but again,
do you think Warner Brothers would try to jump in?
They would. No, I don't think they would because one, they're dealing with their own problems and they're trying to, make their lineup slate for their movies better. Yeah, and plus,
I was just thinking because that would be kind of funny if they actually own some.
They would probably just do it just for more studios and more networks, but they would ultimately give the Marvel characters to either Disney or Universal. Like they would even say,
you think they would do that, or you think they wouldn't just try to make their own movies off of Marvel? It would be kind of actually funny.
No, because it could make them money, but there's no point in it because why would they abandon their dedication to making DC and its characters look better in terms of movies, live action TV shows, and animated films and animated TV shows? Like, why would they do that? Why would they abandon that in favor of?
I wouldn't say they would abandon it. I'd just say that they, it's just use other superheroes to get more money off of it.
I know, which I'm pretty sure they would, but to them, there's no point to it because they don't want it. So they would just want Fox for their studios and their networks. That's pretty much it. But I don't know. It's a tricky situation, and I really hope that the viewers who are watching this can understand that the reason you haven't seen that announcement that Disney now owns Fox 100% legitimately is because this whole idea is not as easy as you thought it was going to be, because it literally could take 2 years for them to finalize. But just because it could take that long, that doesn't mean it's going to be a guaranteed yes in the end. Because remember, it could go on for 2 more years. And by the time it's finally finished, the government can finally say, okay, you have too many studios, you have too many franchises, and you are the biggest empire and corporate business on this earth. So for that reason, we deny you owning Fox. Like, they can't deny them, and they can't say no.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's like I said, it's tricky, and with I said, with them, and that doesn't mean that Fox doesn't stop making movies too.
No, it's not. So
while this is going on, they still have to continue making the Marvel movies that they're making.
Here's the difference between Fox's situation and Sony's situation. Fox's situation is they're desperate to make sure that they can stay longer as a company. They need to be owned by somebody. They need to be backed up and guaranteed that they can keep going until, the day they don't go anymore. Whereas with Sony, they need to make money so they can try and stay afloat. Like, that's the situation here. So Fox is still making movies. Like, see, that's the thing. With Deadpool 2 coming out, that is going to make money. Some of their other franchises, those are still going to make money, guys. It's just they need security. They need to stay ashore and make sure they can basically go on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, those are our thoughts on it.
I think we covered everything pretty much.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, and we apologize if this video was a little long. It's just when you're talking about these types of situations, you need to go in depth. You need to look at all of these points, and you need to explain.
Each situation is unique in itself.
Yeah, exactly. And we're two people who understand this, and we feel it's better to explain to you guys why this isn't as easy or simple as you think it is. Like, things like this are never easy and simple. Like, that's how tricky the business world is.
Yes, absolutely. So I believe that's it. Like I said, I put Richard's Kenobi's channel in the description box too. You gotta check out his channel. He does reviews and reactions and stuff all that stuff too. Comment rate. If you like this video, please thumbs it up. And we'd like to hear your comments and thoughts too about what you think. And if you like this video or any of my other videos, please subscribe. And that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion, really, of the state of Marvel films. And who knows? Maybe we might do something. We cover someone else in the future about another one franchise. But that's about it, guys. I am the SS Ultimate Goku, and I'm out of here. Peace.
Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.